up, everyone? We're gonna do a recap of how to fish a new lake you've never seen before. The first video we did, part one, all it was showing us in the tournament, right? So I kind of gave a little in-depth or a little insight into what we were doing and what we were looking for, things that I could find in the video, little things that were going on in our head as we were trying to piece together, you know, what we were trying to figure out as the tournament goes on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and rewatch the video. All right, and the reason I'm gonna do that is I kind of remember everything about it. I'm gonna kind of tell y'all what it was that we were kind of doing, you know, what we were looking for, basically shot by shot of what we were doing. So that's kind of what we're gonna do. Let me see if I can find it real quick. All right, so the video basically has us in the dark, right? So we really didn't know where we were going. We launched at a boat ramp that we kind of found on the maps and stuff, and we kind of even had to ask some people around there that were loading. We were like, hey, can we load here? Is this okay? So we started island. The lake, there's a couple things you need to know. This is the things we had to work with. He had been to the lake like once or twice years and years ago, but never in the springtime. He didn't know, he had never been, the lake's not very big. It only takes probably, I don't know, 15 minutes to run from one end to the other, but he had never even been like 5 miles north of the dam. That's where we're going. The reason is this, it's March. I know they're gonna spawn on the north end quicker than the south end on most all the lakes. The lake had come up 4 foot in the past couple of weeks all at once. And so I had heard that there was some dirty water like mid-lake. And so the lake was not as clear as it normally is. I heard it was a pretty clear lake and that sight fishing was pretty good. But you know, I don't really trust people when they tell me that. I don't really know, you know, I kind of really get my own viewpoint of it. So, and we knew we couldn't sight fish right off the bat because it was gonna be dark. So that was us. I looked on the map. I didn't want to go too far north because too far north on lakes is kind of different. You kind of have to know what you're looking for. So I tried to pick a little bit further than the main lake and then tried to find some creeks. I usually like to get away from the crowd. The problem is I don't know this lake. So I found some creeks that were big enough to hold a good group of fish, but were not too big to where it would take me hours to figure out. A creek that's a somewhat decent size that maybe you could figure out within an hour or two of kind of going, okay, I think these are the best looking spots. Or if there's a pattern going on, it's a lot easier to do it in a smaller creek than a big giant creek. So that's what we looked for. So I just picked a creek, and we actually saw one canal that was kind of different than all the rest of them. And we picked that creek because of that canal. We didn't get to start in the canal because there were people there. So we just started fishing around. Most of the guys except for one boat got out of that canal, and then we went through on in there. So the beginning of the video, it shows us, you know, I was throwing a pop and perch around and he was kind of just flipping around. We noticed, this is really important, we noticed some shad flickering, or we saw some bait fish flickering up along the bank. And we were kind of going, man, it's March, like there's no way there's a shad spawn going on. So we didn't think much about it, but he did catch a fish right next to that, like a little keeper. So right after that, as we're coming back out, we see it going on in that same little spot, and then we see it kind of again. Now we were going, golly, like I think both of us have never in Texas really seen a shad spawn going on the exact same time bass start spawning. Now we've seen it happening when bass are spawning, but not like, I've never seen them start at the exact same time, and it seemed like they were starting at the exact same time, which is pretty crazy. So you'll see us kind of going, I'm kind of flipping and throwing a swim bait, and I want to catch them on my pop and perch, but you know, it's still springtime, so it was kind of weird. Well, I finally get a bite on my pop and perch, kind of wide open bank, and I kind of looked at him going, okay, man, and it didn't hit like a spawning fish, it hit like it crushed it. And I was like, man, if they're gonna crush it, it might really get good. So I caught that one, and we kept on going down the bank. As that bank turned, there was some hay grass there. I had one swirl on it, and it looked like shad were spawning on that as well. And that's when we're kind of like, but we could start seeing. It was bright enough to where we could finally start seeing, going, those are shad spawning. So now we were like, this is crazy, but we didn't put much thought into it because that really wasn't going to be our game plan. So as we keep going, we go into this canal. There's only one boat way in the back, and we're kind of looking at the canal, and the good bank, what I say, the good bank, the bank that looks the best is on one side, and the bank that doesn't look the best is on the other side. I tend to throw at the banks that don't look the best. They kind of look good to me, but I think most people kind of stay away from them. Well, Phil, same thing. So he's throwing over there. He's throwing a Magnum Rage Bug, and like third cast over there. Even before, it's crazy, even before he says anything or sets the hook, he's like, hey, big one. And then you can hear him set the hook. And that guy's just been fishing forever. I mean, he knew it was a big bite by the way it hit, swam off with it and everything. And he catches it. He's like, oh, it's not as big as I thought. So I didn't get the net. He goes to boat flipper. Man, I was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Because I mean, that fish was so big, and it came over the boat, and I was like, oh, I'll get the net next time. But it ended up being like a 7-pounder. So we had already caught a 3-pound. I had about a 3-pound popping perch fish. We got a 7-pounder. He had already caught 1 or 2 at this point in time. I think he had caught 2 little bitty just rats. So I was like, all right, you keep doing that, I'll keep doing this, and let's just work down this canal. Still dark, so I couldn't see. As we're working down it, he catches another small one, so that was number 5. So I was going, man, it's 8 o'clock. We've been fishing for an hour, and we've already got a limit with a 7 and a 3. Like, we already got our big one out of the way, and we're good to go. So as we keep going down it, I start being able to see on the bank. And so I said, hey, I think I can at least see, but I gotta see if one's even up here. So we go down the bank for a while. I see one, and I turn around, and those other guys are coming back down it, but we really didn't get to fish the bank where he caught that 7-pounder very hard because I was kind of going fast. So we fished down that bank and leave out of there. We let those other guys come out. We fished around for a little bit and never caught anything on the main part of the creek. We also saw that no one else was catching anything on the main part of the creek. So we ended up going back in that canal and fished down it real slow, and I said, hey man, let me just go on high to the back and look. And right off the bat, I see a pretty good one over 3. I get further to the back, I see another one, and I see 2 more. One of them I thought was big, but I couldn't tell. We came back around, and I fished for one that I thought was the easiest. The 2 that I saw, I didn't really see them again. So I went to the one that I thought was the easiest in the middle. First flip, I caught it. So now I come back and fish for the other 2. I only see one of them, but I think it is the female, or something is weird going on. When I saw it swim out, I realized I had the bigger of the 2, so I caught it. So now we've got, let's see, a 3-pounder on a popping perch, 2 other 3s, sight fishing, and a 7. And I'm going, all right, we're good to go. We come out of there, I see another one on the first one I saw on a bed, which we think is the biggest one of all of them. And I fished for like 30-45 minutes. She was in a whole bunch of stuff, and I just didn't have the right angle on her. It was hard to see still. So we left. We went and looked some more because I wasn't really too worried about anyone finding her. Everyone that came in that creek, there was a bunch of people that started in this creek, like 8-9 boats. We only saw like 1 at this point in time. So everyone had kind of left. So we went around, messed around, and as we're coming out, I see this little swirl up against the hay. And I was going, oh my gosh, man, like, hey, I'm gonna just throw up there. So I put my popping perch on, and I throw up there, and if you can see, it was blowing really, really bad. And I threw up there, and I didn't throw really where I needed to, and I landed on top of the hay. So as I finally get it undone off the hay, when it hits the water, I was still this far away from where I saw the boil. So I was thinking, I was getting prepared to maybe get a bite right here. Man, I got like 1 pop on it, and she comes flying out of there and hits it. And when she does, she turns right at me. So by the time I set the hook, she was 15 foot already close to the boat. It was my fault. I should have reeled more, and I lost her. But it kind of clued me in. I was like, okay, well, it wasn't 10 casts later, I catch another one on the other side. And so I was like, man, we can do this, but it's already kind of late in the day. It's already, you know, past when the shad stopped doing their thing. But now we had 5 pretty good ones. I went back in there, and it was like 3 minutes into that other sight fish, I catch the next sight fish. And so now we've got, that was our second biggest one. So now we're pushing 20 at this point, and it's probably 9:30, maybe 10. And so I was like, all right, let's go. We had to make a decision, right? So this is where tournaments all come down to, is what do you do? Do you go after the shad spawn where it could get crazy and you got to go run a pattern, but we don't know the lake? So do we look for sight fish, even though I found a couple, but nothing big? Some 3-pounders, don't get me wrong, that's not bad. But I've also seen like 6 at this point, 5, and that's the biggest one. The biggest one we've caught has been just flipping blind casting. So we're like trying, and we don't know the lake. So we're trying to figure out like, what do we do? Because this creek might be really good we're in, we don't know. Or other creek's gonna be just as good. Is sight fishing just phenomenal right now? And we don't know it. So we said, hey, let's go up north. Let's go try to see if we can see anything better up there. So that's what we were trying to figure out. What are we gonna go do? So we went up north, and we started just going into random creeks, things that, you know, we were just hoping maybe we could figure something out. That's the problem with trying to go look. It's very hard sometimes on places like this lake. We started figuring out, when you get bulkheads, the bank is not always normal. And what I mean by that is some bulkheads are in 3 foot, some are in 1 foot, and it's almost impossible to tell until you get right up next to the bulkhead. So we did this for a couple of hours, and we were seeing fish, and no one was messing with any of them. Like we caught a couple of them. I didn't even put them on here. They were like close to 3 pounds. But now 2 to 3 hours have gone by, and we haven't seen another big one. I feel like time's wasting away. So we had to come up with another decision. And I'd been throwing a popping perch, but where we had went, there was no hay. And I think hay had a big deal. I caught one off of a point, as you see earlier, on a bulkhead. But I think if it was going to be one of those deals, it would have been a lot better. So we leave there, and I said, hey Phil, like, listen, I think you can catch another big one doing what you've been doing, just casting around. And I was like, let me just go in this other creek. It looks a lot like the one we started in. It's right by it, and let's just see what happens. So we rolled up in there, and it was clear in this creek, which was crazy. Like this creek was maybe one of the clearest ones, and it looked right. It had everything. It looked a lot like the last creek we went into. It had natural bank. It had bulkheads. It had some hay in there. It had some different things. It just looked right to us. We wanted ones that were kind of wide in the front, and then narrowed down, and made a little bitty canal. So we had to get a choice of everything. So that's what we did. We rolled up in there, and as we're going through, I see one off this ladder, and it comes swimming out. I mean, she was way on up there, and she comes swimming off this. There was steps from a bulkhead, and it went right to the ground. I mean, you could see 30 yards up there, and she comes rolling out right by the boat. And I was like, hey, that was a pretty big one. And I said, for this time of the day, that's a big one. That's the biggest one I've seen all day. I'm not saying it's a giant, but it's the biggest one I've seen all day. It's late in the day. It's hard to cull 3-pounders because I haven't seen any. And I said, let's just go to the back and see what this big one does. So we kind of make a little circle real quick, and I look up at her again, and she's up there, and she rolls back out. And I was like, man, this ain't a good one. Like, this is one of the hard ones. Real hard ones. And I said, it's gonna take a while, so we got to make a decision. Do we want to stop on her? So we left again, and we rolled to the back, look maybe for an easier one or a bigger one, because we at least know where that one's at. So we rolled through there, and there's some guys fishing around, you know, but I wasn't worried about any of them. I don't think any of them were looking. And as we're coming back out, of course, Phil gets another bite, and he's like, hey, big one. So he catches another 5-pounder. Now I'm going, okay, man, let's go back to this one. Let me sit on her for a while. Let me see what's going on. So we come back, and I sit on her, and I knew I had plenty of time, which I thought like an hour and a half to fish. And as I'm sitting on her, she finally kind of comes around, and and it takes her like 10 or 15 minutes to even come back to the bed, and I'm pretty far away. She finally gets to where she'll at least look at my bait one time as she swam through, and she swam back off again, and I was like, decision time, we sit or do we go? And Phil was like, hey man, do what you do, just go fish for her. I said, all right. I said, if you don't have a problem with it, you got to realize we've never fished together before. So like, he put a lot of trust in me that I could catch this fish. So I power pulled down and hung out for a long time. And as the minutes ticked away, I started doing things and was able to get this fish more locked down. And I've gotten her to bite finally, but it had been about 45 minutes, an hour. I got her to bite, and I switched some baits around here and there, just trying to, because I couldn't figure out why she was biting. I couldn't stick her. I mean, I'd sit, like, she'd swim off, and I'd set the hook, no tail, or all tail. You know, I would have no tail on my bait. So I was going, man, Phil, this is weird. Like, you know, I mean, not saying I've never seen this before, but it was just different. So long story short, this happened like probably 6 or 7 times. Well, finally, she bit, and I set the hook and got her. Well, as I get her in, she didn't even fight very much, which was crazy. So I get her in, and I mean, as soon as I open her mouth, I see what the problem was. She had like a 7-inch gizzard shad, and the tail was almost sticking out even with her mouth closed. It just all up in her mouth. I'm like, well, that's why she wasn't eating that bait. Like, that's why we could also see that I said, hey Phil, she's blowed out. Like, I can see sometimes. It was really cool. So the steps, if you look at them, there was about that much water over the last step. And sometimes she would swim and turn sideways to get through that ladder to go under, to get up behind it. It was really cool, man, to watch fish do that stuff. Not every time, but she did it a bunch. But when she do that, you could just see her belly, just huge. Well, she had something else lodged in her belly, like some another big shad. So she had this one shad in her mouth. I think she had another one. She'd probably been up there eating gizzard shads that were messing with her, you know, her bed. But, and she was a big female. So it was crazy. So anyways, that's why I think she was just barely just grabbing it by the tail and not eating it all the way, because she had this other big giant tail sticking out. So anyways, it was pretty cool. You can see as soon as I catch her, I show it to the camera, like you can see this tail sticking in there. So that was the tournament, man. I wasn't paying attention at the time like I usually do. He was back there paying attention, but I never asked. He never told me. So it's pretty funny when he was like, hey man, we got 4 minutes left. And I was like, man, I'm so glad you didn't tell me, because, you know, I knew I could catch the fish. I knew I'd gotten her to bite. It would have made me mad if I didn't catch her, you know, and he trusted me that we could do it in the time we had left. So we took a chance. We were hoping that was going to be enough to win it. We came in second. The guys that won had an 11, which, man, it's hard to beat guys that have an 11. They had some other good fish with it too. I mean, when you weigh in 25 pounds, you still got to have some other good ones. So, but man, we were like super thrilled. We drove 4.5 hours down to a lake I've never even seen before against 200 and something guys, teams, you know, that fish there all the time. You know, we went in at the right time of the year, but it was pretty cool, man. We had a really, really good time. That was the actual first tournament me and Phil had ever fished together. We fished together in the boat quite a few times, but that was the first time we'd ever fished together. So we had a blast, man. It was pretty cool. It was definitely a fun ride home. That's the last tournament of the year so far. I mean, well, I think we're gonna get some more, but with this virus thing, all the tournaments are shut down after this. So that was our last one. That was a good one to end on. But so I'll give a little recap. That's kind of went through our heads of like, where do we go? What are we trying to piece together? We had a game plan. We kind of stuck close to the game plan, but it's the little crucial little decisions here and there of like, do we stop on a fish? What do we do after we've seen everything? Those are the things that I think get overlooked in tournament fishing, and that's kind of what I'm trying to provide to y'all. I wanted to show y'all the footage first, and then kind of explain on why we did things the way we did. I'm going to do that a lot. Maybe you guys like it, maybe you don't, I don't know. But that way I can give you, I don't always just want to tell y'all things and not show y'all what we're doing. I want to show y'all so you have visual evidence of what we're doing. I want to show y'all that we're throwing rage bugs at Sight Fish, and that he's throwing, you know, the Magnum rage bug. flipping around. I want to show you that, you know, in tournaments I'm throwing the popping perch and catching fish on it. I think that's the only two ways we caught them, were those 2 ways. But that's what we were doing, guys. Hopefully we'll have some more tournaments here in the next couple weeks, and I'll get that footage up there too. Until then, I got some really cool sight fishing stuff. Like, I got some underwater stuff. I'm gonna post this video first before the underwater stuff's incredible. I'm just starting to do that, so look for that. And I hope y'all enjoy. I hope y'all kind of get a little, maybe a different feel of what we were trying to accomplish when we went into this lake I've never really been to before. So hope y'all enjoyed.